that's really the big thrust of ideas. What are my ideas in terms of what the country is going to be? I'll tell you later. But that to me, like having that same approach, is it's not going to be. You have to have, at least to my mind, some sort of policy, some sort of ideas, and it's just I definitely want to see Trump beaten. Don't get me wrong about that, but it really worries me about how he's going to really get the Democrats on a positive vision. Because, I mean, negative vision's fine, but you need a positive vision to counteract it. And his vision, his lack of vision, and his ties to Wall Street, support of wars, support of the crime bill, I think that's going to leave him, especially to Trump, very, very vulnerable.
Yeah, I think though, as long as he feels he's got a comfortable lead in the polls, he's not going to really try to rock the boat and start getting into policies that some people might agree with and other people won't agree with and that kind of thing. So he's probably playing things very conservatively at this point until he starts slipping in the polls. When other people start catching up to him, he might have to change his tactics on the campaign trail. But for now, he's really comfortable, maybe too comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it'll. I don't think it's going to stay that way for long. I think the debates, especially the first debate, if, for example, like Bernie and Biden or Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden get on the same stage, I think he's really going to be challenged. And I don't think he's really the rhetoric that matches up with a lot of the Democratic Party. For example, he's quoted multiple times as saying, "Millennials, give me a break. Your problems don't really matter that much to me." Like, I think he said that almost word for word. And since a lot of the base, a lot of the Democratic Party, it's young voters. Like that doesn't support that doesn't really ring as an effective strategy. Like that's not something. It's really just kind of bad. But I'm really curious if he actually starts campaigning, what he's gonna say.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think you make a good point about the debates. He's going to have to, I think, come up with something a little more constructive than what
Yeah.
he's been saying on the campaign trail in these debates. Otherwise, he's going to look like he hasn't really given much thought to what he's going to do as president.
Yeah, I think it definitely seems like he's not really focused on that yet. He's focused on really, like, again, talking to donors, doing a few rallies, and really just kind of moving things along, trying to not really come up with a coherent message other than Trump bad. Like that, like that's the most worrying thing for me. Like that he can do it. I think it's a point where Bernie or Elizabeth Warren could really hit him on, because I think those are probably the three most, aside from maybe Kamala, the three most viable candidates. You got Biden, Bernie, Warren, and Kamala Harris. Before we go on to our next story, we're going to talk about a little bit a comment that we just got in from our friend James Stanley saying, quote, "We need to be cautious on impeachment. GOP will use it as proof of victimhood." That's what he says. It's definitely certainly possible, but again, there in my mind it just comes a question: will there be a point where the need for cautiousness outweighs the need for action? And that's what the Democrats, I think, are going to really have to deal with, and Nancy Pelosi is really trying to deal with, in my opinion.
Yes, I'm pretty solidly in the camp where we need to be much more aggressive.
Uh-huh.
The Democrats need to show some spine. If they can't do it now, they never will.
Yeah, I definitely think that. Yeah, I'm always for Democrats showing more spine, in that front, because I am always very unhappy about that. So, anyway, we will now going to continue on a little bit to this very interesting story of evangelicals and kind of the Trump base. It's always very interesting. It takes a special day for kind of the nation's evangelical flock, who have been set out to distract from increasing calls for Trump's impeachment by holding a MAGA prayer fest, saying, quote, "I think if people would just pray for our president, pray for this nation, that God will hear those prayers and answer those prayers," said one of the organizers, Franklin Graham, on Fox. The president is the president. He won the election. It's been very difficult for his enemies to accept that. Just pray for the president. So and Pastor Robert Jeffress said that. He's a pretty right-wing pastor there. He said something similar to that. Here is some of the... Here's a clip from some of this action that was happening. This is one of the pastors calling for a special prayer day for Trump. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this, Glenn. Well, I'll kind of recap for you after. And
okay.
For those listening,
no, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
Yeah, so this is Kenneth Copeland. He's a megachurch pastor, pro-private jet guy. He's one of those guys, the private jets, the big areas.
Isn't it true that you want to fly commercial so that you can fly in luxury? How much money did you pay for Tyler Perry's Gulfstream jet, for example?
Well, for example, that's really none of your business, but...
Isn't it the business of your donors?
Listen, I paid. You kind of caught me off guard here, okay? Thank you, Lord. Help me. Let me pray this thing.
Well, let me just ask you a really simple question. A lot of people think it's unbecoming for a preacher to live a life of luxury and to fly around in private jets. What's your response to that?
Very simple. It takes a lot of money to do what we do. Without the airplane that we have that I bought from Tyler Perry, and I didn't pay anywhere, and Tyler's one of the greatest guys. He made that airplane so cheap for me, I couldn't help but buy it.
Well, my question then...
Yeah, so that's a little clip from Kenneth Copeland, one of these pro-Trump preachers, and he's also one of these preachers that is a little bit different issue, but he's the guy who's one of those kind of guys that like scams people out of money. He's getting questioned there in that clip by someone from Inside Edition asking about the private jets that he bought, and when it's been unbecoming, the preacher has really kind of been caught off guard by that. He even said that. So again, it's not very stellar characters here. White evangelicals are among the biggest segment of Trump's base, and this is the first time they bailed him out. In 2016, Mike Pence spoke at Liberty University during the presidential campaign. This was just after the infamous Access Hollywood tape dropped, in which Trump bragged about committing sexual assault. But yeah, again, a lot of them still ended up supporting him, and I mean that to me, like, evangelicals kind of been some of the most conflicting, the people have gone off the deep end, at least on the right, for Trump's presidency, because they have I don't know what's happened to them. They used to be very much aggressive, a lot more aggressive, what they did with Bill Clinton, and the fact that when Trump said that, it just shows you they kind of lost all credibility in their beliefs, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think a lot of Christians on the right care very much about the abortion issue.
Yeah.
It seems to outweigh almost every other issue, and that issue alone will make them vote for you. So they're putting up with a lot of other negative stuff that they don't like, I'm sure, from the president. But his stance on abortion, the fact that he's gotten two anti-abortion justices on the Supreme Court is huge for them. So they're going to continue to support him. And I think that's all. I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I mean, those are the people probably that are living in a world where, like, nothing happened with Trump in the Mueller report. Trump's just being attacked by the fake news media. And again, getting that word out there could be very, very helpful down the road. So, yeah. That's definitely something to keep an eye on there. We're going to wrap up our show today by talking a little bit about Mike Pompeo and foreign affairs. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, he delivered a sobering assessment of the prospects of Trump administration's long-awaited Middle East peace plan in a closed-door meeting with the Jewish leaders, saying one might argue the plan is inexecutable and it might not gain traction. He expressed his hope the deal isn't simply dismissed out of hand. It may be rejected, could be. In the end, folks will say it's not particularly original, it doesn't particularly work out for me. That is, it's got 2 good things and 9 bad things. I'm out, he said in an audio recording in the private meeting obtained by Washington Post. The big question is, can we get enough space that we can have a real conversation about how to build this out? The remarks are some of the most unvarnished comments to date from a U.S. official about this Israeli-Palestinian peace plan Trump entrusted to his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and former lawyer Jason Greenblatt. So pretty much the idea is I think the most telling quote here is it's a deal that only Israelis could love. So that kind of tells you about some of the biggest things that are going on here, and like what kind of what's your reaction to this news here that this is a deal that Israelis only could love?
Well, it's not surprising, right? I mean,
No.
even before the negotiations started, the Trump administration just, handed them Jerusalem on a platter and saying, we recognize Jerusalem as your capital and blah, blah, blah. They didn't even use it as a negotiating chip if they wanted the Israelis to give a little, give something. It seems like they're just giving them everything, some of it up front, and now in the negotiation, it's going to be a joke. I don't see how anything can be accomplished and agreed upon. There has to be give and take, and I don't see it happening.
Yeah, so I mean that's a very disturbing situation there. I mean, it kind of wonders here what's the future again, especially for the Palestinians, because I mean I really worry like once Israel has been pretty much given everything they wanted, like how is that going to affect the lives of the Palestinian people, especially in the Gaza Strip, who have just been dealing with a lot of awful situations recently? And I mean, like, do you have any idea like where this could go from here?
Well, I mean, I don't exactly know what kind of proposal Kushner's come up with. I imagine it's going to be a two-state solution. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Unless maybe they don't like that either. Maybe they just want to keep it the way it is because it's essentially apartheid, and they have the Palestinians under their thumb, and they probably want to keep them under their thumb because they're afraid of the terrorism. I don't know. I really don't know what I haven't read anything about what, nothing's really leaked out about what Kushner is going to propose. But I can't imagine that Kushner, who is a devout Jew, is going to come up with a plan that Palestinians will ever accept.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to see that this deal is going to get any kind of traction at all. And I mean, with the position that Trump's worked himself into by giving the Golan Heights, moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, as you said, like it's going to be very hard for Trump to get any credibility with the Palestinians to kind of get this out. Like, we need new leadership on this. And I'm talking about new leadership as in changing of the president, because he said time and time again things that are very friendly towards Netanyahu, and that's someone, by the way, who obviously Palestinians do not like. He's a very right-wing guy who has been very aggressive to Palestinians, and that is it's hard to see any kind of real peace coming to there anytime soon. I think I could say that with some certitude. Yeah, so, all right, we are going to, is there anything else? I don't think there's really too much else that we need to cover at this point. It'll be interesting to see where things go and all the stuff that we discussed today with in terms of impeachment and all that stuff, and what this week's going to bring. But we will see you next weekend for our 2 weekend episodes. Thank you so much, Glenn, for joining us. But before we go, I just want to get to two major announcements. The first one is that through this week, expect brand new episodes of The Wake Up to come at around 6 to get you ready each and every morning for your day. I know we've been offering that a little bit, but why not end the year with a little bit of good morning news? And I have just been able to confirm for you that we will have on the show at a date to be coming on, to be named later, Ryan Grimm of The Intercept. He's going to be joining us. He's writing a book about the Democratic Party right now. It's very interesting, about kind of the money versus the people kind of politics about AOC, Rahm Emanuel, the things happen all the way really from Al Sharpton's Rainbow Coalition all the way up till now. And where we'll go from here. So it'll be so interesting to talk to him and get ready for that, because Ryan Grimm will be coming on Newsflash very soon. All right.
Oh, congratulations on that scoop.
Yeah. Very, very happy
nice.
about that.